The year is 1648. The Ottoman Empire, a vast and powerful realm, is at the height of its glory. Yet, within the walls of the Topkapi Palace, a different story unfolds. The Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, jewel of the Ottoman Empire, echoes with both lavish celebration and chilling screams. It is a place of opulence and grandeur where the Sultan's word is law and his whims shape the fate of many. The Sultan, a young man named Ibrahim, is on the throne. His ascent to power was marked by intrigue and bloodshed, a common tale in the annals of the empire. He is known as Ibrahim the Mad, a ruler whose eccentricities are as legendary as his cruelty. His reign is a curious blend of bizarre behavior and ruthless governance. He bathes in a fountain of rosewater, a luxury that few can afford. This ritual is not just about cleanliness, it is a display of his immense wealth and power. He hoards furs and perfumes, surrounding himself with the finest luxuries the world can offer. His collection is vast, a testament to his insatiable desire for opulence. Ibrahim is a man consumed by his own desires, blind to the storm brewing around him. His court is a place of excess where pleasure and pain intermingle in a dangerous dance. His reign will be a whirlwind of madness and excess, a stark reminder that absolute power can corrupt absolutely. The empire, though strong, is not immune to the consequences of his erratic rule. The people whisper of his madness, and the seeds of dissent begin to take root. As the years pass, the unrest grows. Soldiers and citizens alike question the Sultan's decisions, and the once unshakable foundation of the empire starts to tremble. Ibrahim's actions, driven by his unpredictable nature, lead to a series of conflicts and rebellions. His decrees become increasingly erratic, reflecting his deteriorating mental state. Advisors and officials struggle to maintain order, but the Sultan's madness proves to be a formidable challenge. Within the palace, intrigue and conspiracy are rampant. Factions form, each vying for power and influence, hoping to steer the empire away from the brink of disaster. The court becomes a battleground where loyalty is a rare commodity. Ultimately, Ibrahim's reign comes to a tragic end. A coup orchestrated by those closest to him removes him from power. His legacy, however, remains a cautionary tale of how unchecked power and madness can bring even the mightiest of empires to its knees. Ibrahim's reign began in 1640, not with the thunder of cannons, but with the sigh of relief. His brother Murad IV, a ruthless but capable ruler, had died young, leaving the empire teetering on the brink. The Ottomans were locked in costly wars, the treasury was depleted and corruption was rife. Ibrahim, sheltered and coddled all his life, was woefully unprepared for this burden. He was a bird raised in a gilded cage, suddenly thrust into the blinding sunlight of absolute power. The Topkapi Palace, usually a place of strict protocol and whispered intrigue, transformed into a playground for Ibrahim's whims. This grand palace, with its opulent rooms and sprawling courtyards, became the stage for his unpredictable and often disturbing desires. The once serene and orderly environment was now filled with an air of unpredictability and excess. He filled the harem with hundreds of concubines, each one more beautiful than the last. These women, plucked from various corners of the empire, were brought to the palace to satisfy his insatiable desires. The harem, which was supposed to be a place of refuge and luxury, turned into a gilded cage for these women, showering them with jewels and silks one moment, lavishing them with the finest gifts the empire could offer. The women were adorned in the most exquisite garments, their beauty enhanced by the glittering jewels that Ibrahim bestowed upon them. It was a life of luxury, but it came at a great cost, then subjecting them to brutal punishments the next. The same hands that offered gifts could also deliver pain. The women lived in constant fear, never knowing when Ibrahim's mood might shift from indulgent to cruel. The palace guards, ever watchful, enforced his harsh decrees without question. He developed a bizarre obsession with obese women, a fixation that puzzled and disturbed those around him. This unusual preference led him to seek out women who fit this specific ideal, regardless of their own wishes or well-being, ordering his agents to scour the empire for the largest woman they could find. These agents traveled far and wide, searching every village and town, driven by the fear of failing to meet Ibrahim's demands. The search became a topic of gossip and speculation throughout the empire. His erratic behavior and insatiable appetites became the stuff of horrified whispers, both within the palace walls and in the crowded streets of Istanbul. The people of the city, from the highest officials to the common folk, spoke in hushed tones about the Sultan's madness. The once revered palace had become a symbol of excess and fear, its golden facade hiding the darkness within. Ibrahim's reign was marked by bizarre incidents that shocked even the most hardened courtiers. His unpredictable behavior and erratic decisions left everyone in a state of constant fear and confusion. The palace, once a symbol of grandeur and stability, became a place of dread and uncertainty. Courtiers whispered in hushed tones, always wary of the Sultan's next move. His actions were not just the whims of a capricious ruler, they were the manifestations of a deeply troubled mind. He once ordered the execution of his entire harem, only to change his mind at the last moment and have the innocent women sewn into weighted sacks and drowned in the Bosphorus. This act of cruelty was not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern of erratic and violent behavior. The women who had once lived in the lap of luxury found themselves facing a horrifying fate. The Bosphorus, a symbol of beauty and life, became a watery grave for these unfortunate souls. The Sultan's whims could turn deadly in an instant, and no one was safe from his unpredictable wrath. He developed an unhealthy fascination with a dwarf named Sirin, showering him with titles and riches. Sirin, who had once been a mere entertainer, found himself elevated to a position of immense power and influence. The Sultan's obsession with Sirin was a source of bewilderment and resentment among the courtiers. They could not understand why this dwarf, who had no experience in governance, was being given such authority. But in Ibrahim's court, logic and reason had no place. His decisions were driven by his whims and fancies, and those who dared to question him faced dire consequences, even appointing him Grand Vizier for a time. This appointment was met with shock and disbelief. The Grand Vizier was supposed to be the Sultan's chief advisor, a position that required wisdom, experience, and a deep understanding of statecraft. Sirin had none of these qualities. His only qualification was the Sultan's favor. The court was thrown into further disarray as Sirin tried to navigate the complexities of governance. His lack of experience and understanding led to a series of disastrous decisions that further destabilized the empire. Ibrahim's actions, a strange mix of cruelty and absurdity, pushed the empire further into chaos and alienated his court. His reign, marked by bizarre and often brutal decisions, left a lasting scar on the Ottoman Empire. The courtiers, once loyal and devoted, became disillusioned and fearful. The empire, which had once been a beacon of power and stability, was now teetering on the brink of collapse. Ibrahim's obsessions and erratic behavior had turned the court into a place of fear and uncertainty, and the effects of his reign would be felt for years to come. In Section 5, the Revolt of the Janissaries. The final straw came with Ibrahim's disastrous economic policies and military blunders. He levied crushing taxes to fund his extravagant lifestyle, further impoverishing the populace. His ill-conceived military adventures, notably the disastrous attempt to conquer Crete, ended in humiliating defeat. The Janissaries, the elite military corps of the empire, once fiercely loyal, had finally had enough. Fueled by anger and resentment, they marched on the Topkapi Palace, demanding Ibrahim's head. Section 6, Death of a Sultan. Ibrahim's reign of madness came to an abrupt and brutal end. Deposed by the Janissaries, he was imprisoned in the cafes, the gilded cage within the palace where troublesome princes were often kept. His pleas for mercy went unanswered. After 8 days of confinement, he was strangled to death on the orders of the new Grand Vizier. His death, like his life, was a spectacle, a cautionary tale whispered in the corridors of power for centuries to come. Section 7, Legacy of Chaos. Ibrahim's 8-year reign left the Ottoman Empire in disarray. His extravagance had drained the treasury, his erratic behavior had paralyzed the government, and his military misadventures had emboldened the empire's enemies. Though he was gone, the scars of his rule ran deep, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of mental instability at the helm of a nation. Section 8, Madness and Monarchy. Ibrahim's story raises uncomfortable questions about the intersection of power and mental health. Was he truly mad, a victim of the isolation and pressures of his position? Or was he simply a cruel and self-indulgent ruler who used madness as a shield for his actions? Whatever the answer, his reign serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of absolute power and the need for leaders who are not only strong but also compassionate and wise. Section 9, A Timeless Tragedy. Ibrahim's story, though rooted in the 17th century, continues to resonate today. It reminds us that power, without the counterbalance of wisdom and compassion, can be a destructive force. It also forces us to consider the fine line between eccentricity and madness, and the responsibility we have to those who govern us. As we look back on the reign of Ibrahim the Mad, we are left with a chilling question: could such a thing happen again?